Hello, friends, and welcome back to the new episode of r/IDontWorkHereLady. And today we have 3 more news stories, and the first is about why you shouldn't touch a random person in a store. Defusing a Karen. I've been a long-time lurker on this sub, but have never had an IDWH experience myself due to the fact that I'm 6'4" and weigh 250 pounds and have a pretty severe case of RBF. I did come across an IDWH situation recently, though, while in my local Walmart. I was on my way to a wedding and had to stop to pick up some snacks. It was a potluck-style reception, and I was wearing standard wedding attire. White long-sleeve button-up shirt, black slacks, black shoes, and a blue tie to match the bridal party. To get to the food section in this Walmart, you have to pass the cosmetics, and on my way past, I happened to overhear a very heated, one-sided conversation. Being the nosy type, I decided to check it out, and what I find makes me more than a little upset. I turn into the aisle and see a middle-aged woman, hereby dubbed as Karen, about 3 inches away from a young lady who couldn't have been more than 25. Karen was screaming at this poor girl, demanding that she be shown proper respect, her needs be met, the young woman do her job properly, etc. Typical Karen rant. The part that made me angry: my girlfriend suffers from fairly severe panic anxiety disorder, and I've had to help her through more than one panic attack, and I'm intimately familiar with the signs that a panic attack is coming. The poor girl getting yelled at, who's not wearing anything remotely close to a Walmart uniform, is about 30 seconds away from a meltdown. Almost hyperventilating, widened eyes darting around looking for an out, fingers bleeding from having picked the skin around her nails, to name a few things I noticed. Seeing her in this state definitely made me angry, and I felt I had to intervene. I walk up to Karen and very gently place the tips of my fingers on her shoulder. "Excuse me, ma'am, what seems to be the problem?" Karen sees my outfit and apparently thinks I'm a manager. "Good. Your employee is being unbelievably lazy and rude. I demand you fire her immediately." I realize she thinks I'm the manager. I say, "I apologize, ma'am. You have my word, I'll deal with this matter right away. Before we do, though, is there something I can help you with? This lazy bimbo won't tell me where you keep the dog food." Again, I apologize for the inconvenience. Our dog food is kept in aisle 62 in the far right corner. I point to the other side of the store. "About effing time someone did their job." Karen then glares at the poor girl she was yelling at and storms off without another word. I turn to the young woman and take a small step back and tell her in a soft voice that she's going to be okay, that the woman's gone. She seems to have calmed down enough that she isn't in immediate danger of panic attack, so I kind of smile and say, "You might want to grab what you need and go." When she finds out that aisle 62 doesn't exist and I'm not actually the manager, she's going to have a bit more to say to me, and it'd probably be best if you weren't around to catch any of the crossfire. The woman looked at me confused at first, then when realization came, she lets out a little laugh and nods. I give a friendly wave, grab my snacks, and thankfully I leave before Karen finds me again. A 17-year-old girl can't be the boss at a delivery service? Okay then. So I'm not sure if this is the right subreddit for my story, but it's similar to stories I've seen on here, so I'll give it a try. Also, English is not my first language, so please excuse me if there are some mistakes. Me is me, obviously, RM is random mother, and SS is shift supervisor. For context, my coworkers call me boss since I pretty much take care of everything happening at the store while being on my shift, like making sure the restaurant's clean, packing orders, and telling the delivery guys which one they have to take, correcting the kitchen if they mess up, taking orders, answering phone calls, and so on. All right, story time. I work at a popular delivery service in my state, but we also have a small space that we use as some kind of restaurant. I've been working there for more than half a year, and I really like to go there on school days to spend my lunch break and eat something. I was doing exactly that on a day where the delivery part of our store had a lot of orders incoming, so my coworkers barely had time for people ordering at the restaurant. I've watched a family entering the store while enjoying my meal, and since the others had a lot to do, they were at least standing at the register for 10 minutes. Since I usually work at the cash register, I put my meal aside and took a seat behind the register. "Hi there, may I take your order?" I say. The woman looks at me really confused and lifts an eyebrow. To be fair, I'm the only girl working at the restaurant, and by far the youngest one, and I was wearing regular clothes. But I knew that my coworkers were glad that I took over the register, so I didn't see a problem. I would like to talk to an employee, she says. What are you doing behind the register? Miss, I am an employee here. I regularly have school today, but I jumped in for my coworkers since, as you can see, they have a lot to do. So could I please take your order? She was getting kind of PO'd now, since I wouldn't let her talk to an employee, but I didn't really mind. It wasn't the first time that a customer got mad. She now looks at my coworkers and says, "Why is nobody getting her away from the register? Could I please talk to the boss?" I turn around to my coworkers, and my shift supervisor had a big grin on his face, which was a sign for me that I could continue. Of course, they had a lot to do, but they always keep an eye on me as soon as I'm at the restaurant, due to harassment in the past, and because I'm somewhat like their little sister. Well, I tell her, you're talking to the boss right now, so can I please take your order? Are you kidding me? How effing old are you? 17, miss. She was getting really rude now, so my supervisor took the time to come over and help me out a bit. Hey, boss, any problems? I explained the whole situation to him, and he sent me to do his tasks at the kitchen while he took RM's order. Her face was priceless, and I went back to my meal afterwards so I could enjoy the rest of my lunch break in peace. This story maybe isn't as exciting as some of the others on here, but I did really want to share it and maybe make some of y'all smile. Have a nice day, and stay healthy. The tale of the entitled self-appointed site manager. I'm an electrical engineer by profession and a project manager by occupation. During the middle phase of my career, I joined a company as a site manager for a power substation in the UAE. After the initial orientation and briefing at the head office, I traveled to the city where my project is based and where I would reside for the next 2 years. I was accompanied by the project manager, PM. After we reached the site office, the PM informed me that he had to visit the client at their offices and will join me shortly and introduce me to the site engineers and staff. The site team was at the worksite and the site office was empty except for the CAD draftsman and the office boy. The PM instructed the office boy to seat me in the site manager's office and left. As per the site organization chart, I had 2 construction managers, civil and electrical, working under me, and other engineers of each discipline working under them. After around an hour and a half, the door opens and a man enters. He stares at me, then glares at me, for I was sitting in the seat of the site manager, which happens to be me. He goes, "Who the hell are you?" I tell him I'm the book man cometh, the new... And without even giving me time to complete my reply, he goes wild. "Who gave you permission to come into my office without permission? Who do you think you are? Get the hell out of here." I've worked in numerous projects and handled similar folks before. This was the start of the project. Anyone who does not have the minimal courtesy and manners in talking with strangers is surely a loose cog in my system. I'm a team player. I consider people with such a mentality detrimental to the health of the team. So I had decided what course of action I would be taking, then and there. I didn't reply. I stood up, left the room. He was still shouting and grumbling when I left. I went into the site engineer's office room. There were a few engineers who'd returned from the site. I introduced myself as the new site manager, and all of them stood up with respect. I asked them to be at ease and inquired about the guy who said the site manager's office was his. It turns out that he was the civil construction manager and thought he had his own office at the site office building. He'd sort of assumed that he should be acting site manager and moved into the site manager's office. The engineers told me that he was a bully and would throw his weight around, bossing everyone, even the electrical construction manager, and was a royal pain in the butt. The head office had received numerous complaints from the site engineering team, staff, client, and the subcontractors, and he was just one write-up away from being terminated, and he simply didn't seem to care, with some sort of invincibility attitude. The PM returns by this time. I see him and inform him that I want a private meeting with him before I get officially introduced to everyone. I sit with him in the conference room and tell him everything. I inform him that if this particular gentleman will be on site, it would be detrimental to my functioning and for the company too. I recommended his removal and request to replace him with another civil construction manager. The PM concurs, saying that he was just waiting for the guy to bite the bullet, and now that he has to go. He apologizes to me and asks the office boy to request the entire engineering team and staff to assemble in the conference room. As everyone gathers, the civil construction manager walks in, looks at me sitting in the chair next to the project manager, and stops with his jaw hanging. The project manager says, "Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the new site manager, Mr. Bookman Cometh. I expect you to extend him your full cooperation and support to make this project a success." The civil construction manager's dumbfounded. He steals peeks at me. Later, the project manager takes me to my office. I call the office boy and instruct him to remove all the stuff that belongs to civil construction manager and shift it all to his proper office room. Later, the door opens and the civil construction manager peeps in, inquiring, "May I come in, sir?" To which I reply, "No, you may not." To cut the story short, he was replaced with a fantastic civil construction manager who got on well with the team. The snob was delegated to an office job and terminated in 2 months' time. Edit to add the rest of the story. Later, the entitled guy joined another company doing projects for the same client. At another site, he started shouting at a visitor to his site, who later turned out to be the chairman of the utility, the client, who while passing through the city had decided to visit the site unannounced. He was blacklisted and given an exit visa out of the UAE with a permanent ban. Guess he never learned his lesson. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.